It's been a while since I reviewed this series since the first Underground, but we are back and here to continue this series of reviews. Now, the first Underground changed everything for the Need for Speed franchise, and they haven't really changed course too much except for the occasional off release, which we'll get to in the future. Underground, while different in a change of style, it was still pretty simple in regards to most racing games. You go in, pick a car, choose a track, and race. Underground 2 took all of what was unique about the first Underground and expanded upon it tenfold. Biggest change was instead of making you choose from a menu of different races, they put you in an open world, making you drive to your events and different locations to customize your ride. Underground 2 still comes with its own story mode, exchanging out its fully animated cutscenes with voiced over comic book strips. I don't mind this change, but I would still prefer the animated cutscenes. But the cutscenes are still very few far in between, so it really doesn't matter. It continues your driver story from the first one with some kind of convoluted way that brings you to this new city, but it's whatever. So just like the first Underground, this one starts you out with an already tricked out ride so that way you can get a hang of the game, this being a 350Z. One of the characters wants you to go straight to the location to start the story, but you can actually drive around and do some races to win and earn some early cash. But eventually she will cut you off and you are going to be forced to go to your destination to start the story. This is where you will choose your ride to begin your journey and be the top street racer of Bayview. Now, Underground 1 had a little over 100 races for you to complete to beat the game. Underground 2, however, has about 150 plus, and dear God, is this a lot of racing to complete a story mode. Guys, I love racing games. It's my #1 favorite genre because I feel like it's the one genre that I feel like I'm best at compared to most other games. But if I'm just trying to beat the story mode here, it shouldn't have to take this long, especially with some of the races just being rinse and repeat. This game can get repetitive very quickly. Now, there is a lot to love about this video game, but how they just try to stretch out the gameplay is very tedious, especially with how you have to get to certain points of the game to be able to use some of the best performance parts in the customization menu. I mean, you could use cheat codes, but that will only get you so many things to use, and besides, growing up now, I rarely or even want to use cheat codes anymore, so to hell with them, honestly. But eventually I did beat the story mode and it took me close to about 30 hours to complete. The story is alright, pretty generic and really doesn't add anything to be different and unique. You just race your way to the top and some guy is calling you out and you beat him, roll credits, pretty much just like the last one. The gameplay feels just like the last one, only there are tons of new customization options and racing modes. This will, however, be the last entry for a few years to include both drag and drift modes at the same time. So the new race modes we have here are Street X races, which take you on a drifting course, but you just straight up race them with no nitrous and 3 other opponents. Then you obviously have the drifting mode, where in this version it takes you and 3 other opponents to drift around the course. Usually I just let them get ahead of me so that way I can have room to do my drifting because I hate crashing into the other opponents here. And then you have the downhill drifting, which is pretty self-explanatory, except you're alone this time and then you're just trying to rack up these points to get the most and win. I really like this, and it's something of a, sneak peek as to what's really going to be a big feature in Need for Speed Carbon once we get to that in the future. Sprint is back, which is just race from point A to point B, the classic circuit races, drag racing, which I'll get into a few details soon, and the final new mode, which is the Underground Racing League, or URL for short. This is where it takes you and about 5 other opponents and you race on a legit course and sometimes doing it tournament style. This is my favorite mode to race on because I am more of a on-track simulation racer, so this is a great addition to the game. And now we have drag racing. Here we go. Look, I get it. This is an arcade racing game. This is not meant to be realistic. I get it. But for the mother of loving fuck, do I hate this mode. This mode would not be a problem if the drag racing was just a bit more legit. A straight line, no traffic, no obstacles, just plain and simple drag racing. But no, we have to overcomplicate the ever-loving fuck out of everything, don't we? Just like I said in my last review for Underground 1, it is just a game of puzzles because you are never going to know what things are on the track from beginning to end until you fail it a couple times and expect them next time moving forward. That should not be how this works. This is crazy, and why is it that when I crash into a car in regular races and do about 50 front flips, and I can still have a living pulse to be able to put my foot on the gas pedal and continue the race, but in drag mode, if I even breathe on a civilian car, I total it? What the fuck? I absolutely hate drag racing from the Need for Speed franchise, and it is only going to get worse when we get to Most Wanted. Holy shit. Now, the drag racing in the franchise does get better once we get to Pro Street and Shift 2 Unleashed, but we are not there yet, but we'll get to that when the time comes. So we also have a new feature in the story mode that deals with sponsors. The fact that legit companies can have contracts with illegal street racers is beyond me, but whatever. They give you a sign-up bonus and a list of things that you have to complete in order to progress through the story mode, which is a lot. Throughout the story mode, you will also have special events that you have to get to in order for you to have a chance on magazines and DVD covers for your ride. You go to these locations and sometimes you'll be able to just right there on the spot take a picture for the magazine or DVD cover, or sometimes you will have a time limit to get to a certain place. So depending on how tricked out your ride is, also with the star rating system will be how much you earn for these magazine covers. And I'm 50-50 on that system because, don't get me wrong, I love having the option to be able to trick out my ride to the full extent of my imagination. But sometimes I really don't want to, honestly. I like to have a car that sometimes just looks like a sleeper. I don't want to have to take out my Nissan Skyline, which is my favorite car of all time, and just rice the fuck out of it. Sometimes I just like it to be nice, sleek, you know, the classic blue, or, you know, or whatever color I want it to be. The game forces you to do this. Now, that's cool to have that option there, but in order for something like that, in order to progress through the story, is a bit nonsensical in my mind. But, you know, it's whatever. I did like the, you know, way my Skyline turned out by the end of the game, but I would rather that not have to be mandatory. But moving on. They did add a bunch of new cars to the game since the last entry, and I am very happy with this because I love this new selection. The only thing I am against is the dumbass idea to include SUVs. Like, who the hell is going to think that it's a good idea to bring this tank of a vehicle, bring it to a car meet for the purpose to race it? Now, the real big purpose for the SUVs being in the game is to be able to customize it. Which, okay, that's fine. Maybe there should be a mode where who has the best tricked out ride or something like that in the game, but they don't have that. They only have that for the rating systems for the magazine covers. So maybe that's something that they probably should have implemented, because I'm not going to race these SUVs, man. I'm just not. Thankfully, they do not make it mandatory for you to drive these tanks in the game, because I just never did. I never thought of even the possibility of me even buying one of these things in the game and just using them to race. This never crossed my mind. And to be honest, some of the things that they added in the customization menu is completely pointless, like adding in the scissor doors or adding stuff to your trunk. This is only going to help you with your rating and really does nothing to actually help you in regards to the story. But if you like it, I mean, that's cool. To each their own, I guess. But you're never going to see this stuff while you're racing. The nitrous purge stuff, that's pretty cool because you can do that like right at the beginning of the race before you take off to get the lead. That's pretty cool. That is pretty, you know, interesting. You know, but the hydraulics, the scissor doors, that's only serves a purpose for when you're doing the DVD and magazine covers, which I really don't care about, to be honest. But like I said, if there was a complete other mode that featured these more heavily, maybe that would be better, but there isn't. And I don't know. Like I said, if you like it, that's awesome. Me, it's a bit pointless. Another feature that I thought was a great addition, however, was adding the ability to tune your car. Changing the gearing, turbo, NOS power, tire grip, and brake power, the suspension and downforce. It is very detailed and you can really change a lot to your comfort. You can also take this and go on a test track to drive out your new tunings. You can also test this stuff out on the fly while test driving your car. This is actually something that's really great, especially something for Need for Speed early in the street racing series. Unfortunately, to my memory, this is the only time that they actually do this until Shift comes around, but who knows, maybe it's in Most Wanted and I just forgot, but we'll get to that when we get to that. I also do like how you can go back and watch your replays for some pretty cool camera angles. I think this was a really cool addition to the game, only that this is the only time you can really do this until Pro Street or Shift came out. I really also do wish that they did have a fast travel system for the races, only because some of the locations that you go to sometimes are nowhere near the locations you actually race in. Maybe this would have shaved down a lot of time on the gameplay, because sometimes I do just like being able to just select the races I want to do and jump right into it. Now, I don't want you to think that I wanted to shave down gameplay time because I was rushing to beat this game for the review. That's not it at all. I freaking love this game. It's just because this game gets so repetitive with some of the races you have to do, because there is very little story, that is told between sections of the game. You guys might feel differently, and that's great, but it just drags out too much for me. And when you have to do the same thing over and over again. But, last but not least, the soundtrack for the game. Pretty good soundtrack, especially with the classic song at the beginning with Snoop Dogg, and Black Betty by Spiderbait, and a few other songs in the game that are very great for this type of title. Now, I really do like the first Underground soundtrack more, but this is also really good. Guys, Need for Speed Underground 2 is a great game. I still and always will hate the drag racing in this franchise until we get to future titles, but besides that, there is a lot to love about it. This is clearly a classic and deserves to be played by any racing fan. Guys, my name is Pedro Ordonez, also known as Gamelight7. Please subscribe, comment, like, thumbs up, do whatever you guys can to support this channel, and let me know what you guys want to see me review next in the future, and I will see you guys in my next video. Peace out.